You are listening to Word2Wordz, the podcast where two poets come together to share their love for words and those who use them creatively. Before we start, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and also follow us on IG, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Word2Wordz. That's WORD, the number 2, WORDZ. So you will never miss a word from us. Now, let's begin the show.
Hello, I'm Zara Kalima, the community poet.
And I'm Tony Two Eyes, the entrepreneur poet. And this is Word2Wordz. We are back with another episode of the Poet's Favorite Podcast. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all your comments and everything and the follows on Instagram. And yeah, just thank you for being here right now as we take words, go to other words, make other words, and we're just going to have a good time. You know how we do. So before we ever get started on anything on this podcast, we always want you to be pushing your vocabulary as writers and also just as people. So we have a word of the episode. And today's word, you may not have heard it, but it's called petrichor. Petrichor.
And what does petrichor mean?
Hold on. Sorry, we're saying it wrong. It's petrichor. Petrichor.
And what does petrichor mean?
I'm trying to copy off of the guy that said it when I pressed. Can you please say this? Petrichor. So it is a noun, and it means a pleasant smell that frequently accompanies the first rain after a long period of warm, dry weather.
So what you're telling me is that smell that you can just enjoy, right? In that springtime, after not having smelled it in a while, you just smell that sense of nature. That is the scent of petrichor. Is that
petrichor?
Okay.
Yes, it's like when I'm going to use it as a metaphor now, like when you have gone through so much stressful stuff and you have been beat up by life, and then you just are down and out and you feel like you can't get out of this cycle. And then all of a sudden, that sense of progress or that idea that you have that motivates you to go in a different direction, that would be just like petrichor after you have been in this place of desert, dry weather, can't grow anything. And then all of a sudden, idea comes. That fragrance that you feel when you have hope in your lungs, that is petrichor. So that's the word of the episode. Use this word in your next poem. Try to challenge yourself to find a way to use it. She gave a literal sentence that uses it or that it describes it, and I just use a metaphoric one. So please do try to use it in a poem. Tag us in it, and let's continue to write and let words turn into other words. Speaking of words, who we see?
Oh.
That has nothing to do with words.
Well, no, because
it does.
So every episode, we like to salute a poet doing the daggone thing and identify that we see them and give them flowers, roses, and a basket of words for what they're doing. And granted, this is not a poet that people don't know. This is not a poet that has not received all the roses, prizes, awards, words in their career. But while we often mention poets that are not as well known, I think it's important to nod towards the greats that are still here with us, right? So a couple in between episodes, it was announced that Sonia Sanchez, the great Sonia Sanchez, was awarded the highly coveted, really amazing prize of the Dorothy and Lillian Gish Prize of $250,000. This is a very rare prize that's actually awarded. Very few people get it. It's an annual prize, but it has gone out to artists such as Bob Dylan, Maya Lin, and quite a few others over the years. But Sonia Sanchez is 87 years old right now. And so it is amazing that she has received this award. The whole poetry world erupted in a huge amount of noise. You couldn't look on Facebook and not see this information. So I want to salute her, but I also want to share my little personal story of her. But let me give you some information about her first. Sonia Sanchez is a poet, playwright, professor, activist, and one of the foremost leaders in Black Studies movement. She was born in Birmingham, Alabama. Her original name was Wilsonia Benita Driver. She's a child of the 1934. But she was a big part of like the 70s movement in writing and the growth of that movement of writing. But she was a fifth grade teacher here in the Bronx or in New York. She was raised in Harlem for a bit of time. She experienced a whole bunch of loss at a very young age. Before she was 6, she lost 2 very formative people in her childhood. But when I was a kid, and I was past my single digits, but I was still not even, I was not 13. And I went to a predominantly Black elementary school. And so I had these great teachers who really made a whole thing about making sure that we knew our cultural leaders and made sure our Black history programs were very robust and our women's history programs were robust. And I couldn't understand for the life of me why for Black history program, I was having to do a poem by some woman named Sanchez. And at that point, one, I had no understanding of what it meant to be an Afro-Latino. So there's that. Like the Afro-Latino wasn't on my understanding radar. You were Latino or you were Black. Like you couldn't possibly be both, which is like, this is a child and childhood understanding of things, right? But then also one, she's actually not Afro-Latino. Her first husband's last name was Sanchez. And so she just kept it as her professional performance name. She went from her longer name of Sonia to Sonia Sanchez. And I mean, that's her name, Sonia Sanchez. But like, as a child, I was so upset. My little activist self was like, why are we doing Black history and I'm doing some Latino woman's work? It was so misguided. But that was my...
Excuse me, miss.
We are baby activists. We are oftentimes getting it wrong. So also when you're starting this activist thing, be humble. And even when you are doing it for a long time, be humble, because I'm going to talk about how somebody needs to be humble when we get further down into this episode. But that's a whole nother conversation for later in this episode. But the whole point being that like, I didn't understand it. And then I got to see her at an event at, I don't know if it was Joe's Pub or it has to be Joe's Pub. I don't think it was actually the Public, but I don't know if you know those venues here in New York, but the Public Theater is, Joe's Pub is part of the Public Theater. So I think we were actually in Joe's Pub, which is the side entrance that's a little bit more swank and cool. But we saw that woman perform and she is like, I mean, she has to be by that point in her 70s. She is taking trains from New York City to Philly. Just to like, she lives in Philly, so she's taking trains, she's hopping on Amtrak's to get down to Philly, the 2-hour commute just to do these shows. And she's reading poems about things that I was like, oh, okay, I want to be like, I want to be like you when I grow up. So Sonia Sanchez is just so super dope. And I have had the pleasure and privilege of being in her audience a couple of times since then. And just the energy she exudes, the dedication to education and activism, and just making this world think and be present in a way. And I mean, there's people who are in her age group who are not moving like she is or was. I mean, COVID has stopped everyone from moving for the most part, right? But there's no reason why. I mean, she may have already been 80 by the time I saw her. Actually, I know I definitely have seen her in her 80s at a national conference for Urban League. So this woman's just like, yeah, I'll be there. You know?
Yeah.
And so congratulations to you, Sonia Sanchez, Miss Sanchez, for a lifelong dedication to this body of work, to showing us how to be sexy, beautiful, courageous, to talk about family, to talk about Blackness, to just exist in your gorgeous skin and self, and just be unapologetically you always and forever. I mean, I think her last book came out about 2 years ago or something like that. She's working on another body of work right now. So congratulations on this really highly coveted award. We see you. We are learning from you. We appreciate you. We love you. We offer our flowers to you. Thank you, Miss Sanchez. I'm sorry that little activist Dara didn't understand back then, but I'm so glad that I have gotten to study you, to learn from you, and just be in your presence and just be in awe of the energy you exude. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I love when you can give flowers while they're still alive, you know.
And we have to, because there's not a lot. There's not a lot from her days that is still here, right? You got to think about who she was around with. So even when I think about Nikki Giovanni and being on a Zoom with her earlier in the year, and she's talking about, yeah, I used to hang out with Toni Morrison and so, and she's dropping names, and the people she's dropping names on aren't here anymore. So Nikki's still here. We still got Nikki, thank God. But
Yeah.
we gotta say thank you to Nikki. We gotta say thank you to Maya. We had to say thank you to Maya. I got to see her before she passed too, which was like,
Oh wow.
incredible.
Yeah.
I got to actually recorded her. So I have a video
Oh
of her
wow.
performing with Common.
Not many people can say that, and with Common.
Yes, it was a
Yeah.
National Urban League conference, and it was the most, I think I recorded it, but it's definitely also on YouTube. You can find it. But it was incredible to be in the room with her, right? Like
Yeah.
we got to, while they're here, be giving them their flowers. While they're here, we need to be studying with them, understanding them, learning from them, appreciating them, and thanking them, because you know what? You and I would not be here today. I would not probably be the poet I am today if one of my teachers did not make me have to do and perform a poem by this Latina woman for Black History Month. It just made no sense to me. You know?
Forced you, despite your personal opinions,
you know,
of what you thought.
What I thought I knew that I clearly didn't know.
But I think that's why we actually, have this segment, I see you, and it's really to give flowers to these people that are doing things while they're alive, and not letting it have to pile up before you actually get noticed, like, oh, I am doing something that's impacting someone, or that someone is watching and seeing that my effort is making a change in the world. And I think that is your doing. So thank you for adding that, because it's very important for us, especially as poets. We're now, I would say, we're in a renaissance, if I will, where
that's fair.
The power of the voice, the power of words are increasing, and at a particular peak in this society that we're in right now, where we can actually turn on our TV and see people using poetry, and not have to have the rap or song in it, but just the voice and the mic, and how much power that has behind it. So,
and it's so important to just, I'm a big, and I don't know all the names, and I don't know everyone. And I'm, as much as I do know a lot, I am not the student of the craft that I am striving to be now. As much as I know a lot from the past, and as much as I have studied it, there's still so much more to know. There's still many more poets to study, and there's so much more mastery of an artist that you say to love, right? But there's something about learning from and honoring and identifying those who came before you. Because one of the things that Sonia is really well known for is speaking and writing in AAVE. And while you can watch Langston Hughes also play with the language sometimes with some of his work, and Langston Hughes definitely code switches a lot in his writing, depending on what poem he's writing. There's something definitely that Sonia Sanchez was known for. This is something that she was known for doing, was speaking in a very colloquial way. And why would we have permission to do that today if she wasn't doing it yesterday? And so we really have to acknowledge those that were here before us, who gave us a little bit more permission to do things that we didn't even think were possible before. Or just, I mean, for all we know, that if I love Stacey Ann Chen, like Stacey Ann Chen is one of my favorite poets of all time, right? If Stacey Ann Chen, for all I know, Stacey Ann Chen may have been studying the Sonia Sanchez's of the world, because even though Stacey Ann Chen is only a few years older than me, she is years ahead of me in terms of when she started this and when I started, right? And her leaps and bounds. So she may have been studying the Sonia Sanchez's before me. And so this is all our parents that got us to where we are and the rules that we're breaking as we play with language today. So it's so important to just give flowers, not just to our peers, but to those who have done this for a while.
Yeah.
So
thank you again for this segment. And
oh, my pleasure.
And that was a great person to give flowers to. She's 83, you said? 87, yeah.
Yep.
Well, great.
She's still doing the thing. Like, oh, Sonia. I mean, like, so let me tell you, this is just a little random thing. So when I started growing locks, it's going to be super short. When I started growing locks, part of my idea for a lock journey was that I looked forward to being that old person with the long gray locks. I wanted to be the long gray locks. I wanted to be the Black woman with the long gray locks that you just look at and go, ooh, that woman knows something.
She knows something.
And Sonia Sanchez's locks were longer. They are about my length now. But when I look at her, I'm like, yes, I want, when I get older, for people to look at me and see those gray locks, like I look at Sonia Sanchez and go, yes, that woman knows something.
Wisdom. She locks are coiled in wisdom. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So now it's time to flex a little bit. You know, let people know that we are poets. So I went first the last time.
No, you didn't. I did.
I didn't. Oh
no, I did, because I messed you up and you went and had to switch because you were gonna do a more mature poem and you had to switch away. So it's your turn to go first.
Okay. So this is a piece that is love. I am ready for love. Why are you hiding from me? I'd quickly give my freedom to be held in your captivity. I am ready for love. That one syllable, but infinite faceted, multi-dimensional, timeless and continual, complex but simple, consensual jewel that has the ability to affect and infect couples and individuals in their mental, physical, spiritual, and sexual existence and experiences. The entire body is its residence. It lives even in our crevices as evidence of our resonance. It is our relationship's occupant, occupying two spaces at once. We are two locations with the same tenet. It is transcendence beyond enlightenment and comprehension. It consists of a conjoined essence as it fills us to the rim with its presence, and it will never go through evanescence because its definition has permanence and its effect is instant. Listen, I am ready for love. All of the joy and the pain and all of the time that it takes just to stay in your good grace. I am ready for love, this potent and poetic term filled with 4 letters that shelters my homeless heart. The only word phonetically capable to shade when it is hot, an umbrella in stormy weather, and a bright glowing light in the dark. It feeds like hungry sharks on our entirety. But I am entirely willing to be prey to a predator whose victims can't be numbered and size can't be measured. I have witnessed its power to turn trash into treasure. So I am ready for its pain as well as for its pleasure. I am ready for whatever, however, and whenever it chooses to be ready for me. Because lately I've been thinking maybe you are not ready for me. Maybe you think I need to learn maturity. They say, watch what you ask for, because you might receive. But if you ask me tomorrow, I'll say the same thing. I am ready for love, the intimate connection that we create as I insert into the most sacred place, embrace and take our senses to such an amazing space and make you retrace and find feelings you thought you that were misplaced. I am making you feel as amazing as grace by placing my face to taste below your waist and taking my tongue and moving it at a pace that makes your back arch, takes your breath away, makes your toes curl, your mind race, your grip tighten, your legs tremble, your heart rate heighten, your inhale deepen, your moans more frequent, your pussy wet and causes secretion and leakage. Maybe you are not ready for me, but love, trust me, I am ready if only you let me be. I am ready for love. Would you please lend me your ear? I promise I won't complain. I just need you to acknowledge that I am here. I am ready for love, this passion packed with action that I can show you. Watch me get down right now on one knee and look you into your 2 eyes and ask for a reply with 3 letters to my 4-word question. And in that instance, life instantly becomes better, instantly becomes complete. Then meet me at the altar in your white dress so I can confess everything this word and you mean to me, leaving no dry eye left behind. I find that I can't rest until we bind together and let it be forever that we love each other. I am ready for you, my love. But are you ready for me? I am ready for love. Tell me, what is enough to prove I am ready for love?
Body awakens reluctantly, wanting to stay with you, wanting to stay where you fill dreams with a desire only now known, to stay where conscious hours give way to an unconsciousness where amorous aspirations abound. Ongoing admiration has heightened anticipation for our reunification in both worlds. Awake, asleep, I seek you. Hence the ways in which I melt into your energy while traveling through my psyche. Or I suppose it's not truly you, but only the mental manifestation my mind Legos together as it craves this connection of which I never really knew. Or did I? Have I? Had there always been a crush? Was self always drawn to the mystery behind the smirk? Was appreciation for your cool always an acknowledgement of a want for more of your time? Was heart always more cognizant than mind? Always aware of the wishes to make you mine? But time has been no friend. Time took away my friend. We got lost in time. We lost time. I thought I lost you to time, but here we are now. In this time, is it our time? Is it time? Or is my mind still dreaming, tripping over a re-emergence of your presence? What a joyful present to be presented with again. Again, whatever this is in sleep or reality, I'm honored to be reconnected. Time didn't win. We did.
Snap, 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 snap.
How are we on the same page today?
I think you flipped through as you
I did
heard me
not.
reading. You threw it. You didn't? Oh wow. So
That was the one I
we were
chose.
vibing. We were vibing. Okay. I love that time section, that how you play with time, and oh man. So if you like the particular line in this, please let us know. Drop it in our DMs or on the post when you see this. Also, just you can email us as well if you want to, let us know. We want to hear from you.
I'm gonna apologize for having started to sing when you started that poem. I mean,
I normally sing it, but I know that I wouldn't do it justice on
she's my
the
favorite.
podcast.
She's my favorite.
Yeah, I
Like,
know. I know.
I mean, there's only one person who equals or betters her in my world, and so like it is almost a tie because I can't.
Lauryn Hill? What was the other one?
No. Dinah Washington.
Oh,
It's like
okay.
like I have probably more of Dinah Washington's work than NDRE because Dinah Washington has just made more than NDRE.
Yeah.
I own all of NDRE's work.
Yeah.
So I was just like, "Ooh, we're gonna do this poem," and I've heard this poem before, but it was just like, yes, yes. And I had chosen. I have not performed this poem on purpose because it is about someone, and so I may guide them to this podcast and see if they hear it. I don't know.
I got something in there for you.
I've never told them because it's a friend that I've gotten reunited with, but I was having a lot of dreams about them for a moment. And I was like, what is this dream about? What is happening?
Lucky guy out there. You got a whole full poem for you. There's not too many that got a positive poem by Dara Kalima. So you better blush when you hear this.
I mean, it's if nothing else, like the whole poem is like, even if it's just the friendship, right? I don't know what the dreams are doing. Your subconscious does things to you, but the I've been so happy to be reunited with this friend that I was really excited because I was supposed to see them, and then I still haven't gotten to see them, but I was so excited about the like being reunited with this person that I woke up like, what in the world is, and it was like 2 nights in a row having these dreams. I was like, what is happening? Do I have a crush on you? Do I have a crush on you? What is happening in this world? Let me write this poem. Whichever way this is going, whether I like you or not, whatever. Let's just write that I'm happy that you were back in my life, and that's all that matters. So I've been holding that poem quiet because I was like, I don't know what to do with this.
It's funny that inspiration can come from any direction. It can come from the simplest of things. It can come from dreams, energy, feelings. It comes from all different directions. And lately, I don't know. My pen hasn't been inspired in the last month. I have absolutely nothing, and I know a lot of you can actually attest to that. And I've spoken to many people and poets alike, and it's just this time period is just awkward. It's like you're trying to get back into used to going into work and traveling, and then you just drop the pen after having all you had was the pen for so long during the pandemic, and now it's like, what can I do?
I'm so glad you said that, because this is, since the pandemic has happened, I have always had, and I haven't counted, but this is probably, I'm going to probably be closest to the number of days since the pandemic started to my count of poetry, because I have only written like 10 poems this month.
In the last month, yeah.
I have not written anything. And I have these thoughts. Part of it is because I'm struggling with some personal stuff that I don't know what I'm writing, and there's these two things happening, right? Like, you should never know where your poem is going. If you know where your poem is going, then you're just controlling it too much, and that's not particularly a great poem itself, right? You should be surprised by your own work as you're writing it. You should let the writing write itself in some ways. So there's some of that that's happening. I'm fighting with the words, but also, like, I think you just said it. I think you hit the nail on the head, that we're so busy struggling between, one, the season is changing, it is getting darker, and that always screws up a whole bunch of people. We're trying to navigate between getting outside, COVID getting worse, work demanding more. Like, it's a very weird place to be in. And where do we find ourselves in the middle of all of this?
Yeah. And it's like, with the little bit of, because before we didn't have time, like, we had a whole bunch of time, but we didn't have as many activities to fill that time up with. Now it's like things are open, kinda, you try to push it to the limit. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go to the movies, but I'm gonna eat outside. I'm not gonna eat inside. I'm gonna go to the movies, but I'm gonna eat outside to just, limit the exposure. And then it's like, okay, I'm gonna go to the beach. Well, we're not going to the beach right now. I'm gonna go down to vacation. A lot of people are vacationing now, so I'm gonna go vacation. And when I come back, I'm still working from home, and it's like, oh, I want to go out with the girls. They're now going now. Girl groups are going to brunches and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, do I really want to sit here and write a poem now? I'm trying to use my time to enjoy the things I used to do, and gain that life back. But I only have this limited time to do it,
And also, like, and I've said this before, and I don't know if I've said it on the podcast. I know you and I have said it in conversation, but, like, you have to live to also inspire your writing, right? Like, I've been thinking about this a lot lately as I look at somebody perform something recently. I don't know where I heard it. I don't know. I think it was Tanika. I think it was, so Tanika had, so T Brown Boogie Down, our girl Tanika Wilder had an event on Saturday with Nashville to Listen, and she wrote this poem about, and I don't know what it was about. I like, my brain is not remembering, but I think the impression I had from it was just all the things that she was pulling together to make this poem, like all these experiences that she was pulling from to, like, put this poem together. And I was like, I know these things. Why am I not putting them in my poem? Like, why am I just writing sentences and not actually using the moments from life to put the, like, to do it in multiple lines, not just like the big poem being the bigger image, but like all these things. But we know Tanika's brain works in a way that my brain is never going to work in, right? but it was just like, but like, Tanika can only do that. And as I was sitting there thinking about it, I was thinking about, like, well, Tanika is a social worker. And so she has all this reality facing her all the time. She's all over the world. I mean, all over the city, all the time, serving the people. She's dancing all the time. She has all these stimuli coming at her. And that's how she's able to use it for also writing, and that's how it's informing her work. And so you have to be out and doing stuff and absorbing, just like you have to read if you're a writer, you have to read, you also have to experience. Like, as much as a lot of us are introverts, introverts are amazing observers. That's why we're great writers, because we're observing. So we have to be places. We have to observe how uncomfortable we are being places with people and then go write about it. So, like, this is weird dynamic where we do have to be in the world, and therefore that means we can't be writing to do. It's a weird exchange. And so I appreciate you saying this, because I have been struggling with what's been inspiring me lately. A lot of like, I've been picking up words. Like I wrote a poem this week about, or last week, about the time I cut up my knee as a kid. But it was because I'm reading what Honeysuckle Me, is that the book by Carla Cherry?
That's one of them. Yeah.
Yes, I'm reading Honeysuckle Me right now. I'm reading two books. I'm reading Honeysuckle Me by Carla Cherry, and I'm reading Haiku, The Last Poems of an American Icon by Richard Wright. So I have that right next to me, and I'm carrying Honeysuckle Me around as I travel. And she has a line somewhere where she talks about patent leather shoes, and seeing that triggered the memory of this day where my brother made me scrape my knee because we were playing a game and I cut up my knee. And so like,
It wasn't Squid Games, was it?
It was not Squid Games. But we were running down the street and like, he didn't know he was supposed to stop. So he ran straight into me full force and I fell forward and scraped my knee. And I was most worried about my mom being mad at me. So like for poetic license, I heightened that she would be really angry because I've ripped another pair of tights. But like, either way, like it was reading Carla's poem that got me to patent leather shoes. And I don't think about patent leather shoes, even though I wore them all the time. And then it made me think about, I had a roach in my lunch when I was a kid. One day, like I got to school, opened up my lunch box, and there was a roach sitting on top of my sandwich. So I didn't eat lunch that day because I was like, I can't eat this meal because there's a roach sitting on my lunch box, right? Like in my lunch. And so I wrote a poem about that, but it wasn't really about that. But like, so a lot of the things that are inspiring me is my childhood, but like not the good memories of childhood.
Yeah.
But like, it's also having these other writers write about these tangible things that are making me grasp to the tangible things of my childhood. But it's been like trying and grabbing at things because of everything you just said, which is just like, we're in this weird place of like,
we're in this, yeah. And
what are
I
we doing?
think one of the things that you just mentioned is like going outside of our current situation, even going back into the past and writing based off of that. It's kind of time traveling. And I just want to promote people to get outside of your normal thinking. Go seek out, if you're having writer's block, if you're having
But there
issues
is no
with
such
writing.
thing if you talk to me about it, but continue.
So speaking of talking to her, she's also part of Poetics University's, as well as myself, the Poetics University's workshops that's coming up. And I would say, it's a shameless plug, but I know that this particular segment, inspiration, what's inspiring your pen, if you have the same answer that I just said, nothing, you can't find anything to be inspired by, or because of this weird place that you are in life, if you are in that situation, then go and attach yourself to these other experiences, which are workshops. And there's 7 different workshops that they have inside of Poetics University that range from love to rewriting reality, some conceptual type stuff, to invigorate, how can you actually push your pen to think of some new and creative ways of inspiring you. And so there's there's 7 different workshops, like I said. So go and plug yourself into that. And that is at Poetics U on Instagram. And register for a course. There's still time. They have open enrollment throughout the whole course. And when I say they, I mean we.
The whole term. So the term starts on Halloween, which is pretty much when this will go live. So the first class starts on Halloween, but the classes go on. The last class starts I think it's like December 8th or something like that. The first weekend in December is the start of the last class. The last class concludes on December 18th. So there are those options if you need to shake up your pattern, or you just need someone to push you a little bit, or you need accountability partners. Because I will acknowledge, and it's not, this is counterproductive for plugging Poetics U, but it's productive for the same point, that anytime I'm in one of those generative writing classes, So there's a lot of workshops that exist that are just like, they'll give you a picture, they'll give you a prompt, you write for it for a few minutes, then you go on to the next one, you go on to the next one. I come out with 3 to 4 new poems because I was just forced to look at an image and think creatively for 10 minutes on it because of that. So definitely don't, this is why I also, again, don't think there's such thing as writer's block. It's a bad writing practice.
You
Because
have to be intentional.
you have to be intentional to be present to write.
And I think,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
And
and so
that goes with anything. Like even I think about like a relationship. You know,
yeah.
it's all just natural and organic at the beginning. You love, love, and then problems start to happen, and you have to switch up, and you have to be intentional about, you know, thinking about the person because life starts to happening, and then that old puppy love phase kind of goes out, and you have to be intentional about, oh, okay, I have to listen to them, you know.
What do I do next? How do I invest in this? How do
Yeah,
I grow this relationship? How do I
yeah,
challenge and make it better? How do I invest time in it? And I think
yeah.
that's the whole thing. And I think a lot of poets, so this is something I say all the time. I'm a big advocate with our school to tell people that they need to learn how to do poetic forms. You may never use poetic forms. If you look at my books, there's at least 1 or 2 poetic forms in every book that I've published of mine, minus my memoir. I don't think there's a poetic form in the back of it, even though there are poems in that book, but it's a memoir. So that would be why there's not one, right? But all my other books have poetic forms in it. I don't generally write in poetic forms, but when I do a 30 and 30 challenge, which I do 2 to 3 of them in a year, I always pull out poetic forms. And it is a practice. It is a skill. It's just me expanding my thought process. How do I play with words? What are the rules? What is the essence of the form? And I tell people to do this because it's enhancing the skill. You may never use it in what you perform. You may never use it in what you publish, but it is actually helping you enhance your skill because everything is practice. I often think that poets who don't do it, who never practice it, are probably lazy. I mean, that's going to be my wording. They're kind of lazy. They're not challenging themselves in a certain way. And so any poet who just learns what a quatrain is versus a cinquain, and these are not even, that's just 4 lines and 5 lines, right? We're not saying big words, but if you know that a sonnet has a volta at the end and not just 14 lines, even if you can't get the iambic pentameter right, because we don't say words the same way they said it when we were in Shakespearean times, fine, whatever. But if you get that there's a volta at the end, which means you have to change course just a bit and put a spin at the last end of a sonnet, then you know something that a whole host of poets out there don't know, which makes you more of a master on it. So you want to like own this craft just a little bit. Like I said, there's so much more for me to study. There's so much more for me to know. And if I had the time, the money, and the bandwidth, you best believe I'd probably be getting an MFA in poetry. You know, like I need another degree, right? Like I need another degree. I have already 3 of them. But that said, like there's so much, and even if you have the other degree, there's still more to learn because there's always new things. You know, that's how we got to the duplex. That didn't exist before, but you have a professor who made it out of 3 other forms. So even if you weren't doing it before, you still have to learn something new because he made it after you got your master's in it before, in poetry before. Whatever. I say all of that to say that, you know, it's about practice, and your practice doesn't mean you have to write poems every day. That is not what I'm saying. It doesn't mean you have to write poems every year, every day, every week or whatever, but it means you have a practice where you have a set routine or understanding of what you're doing to study, what you're doing to hone your craft, what you're doing to write. And that's all that means. Like it may be I have a real writing practice. I don't do it frequently, but I have a writing partner and we do our practice together. I also know when to default to it without people. And then I also do, as part of my annual writing practice, the multiple 30 and 30s. Because that's what keeps me writing. It's not to write the best poetry. Some of my stuff, some of that stuff never needs to see the light of day, trust me. But at the same time, it's still practice for the next poem. And so that's why I don't believe in writer's block. I think that's just a bad practice. It's a bad understanding of how to write, and there's too much pressure on yourself. But simultaneously, you need to do things that'll shake it up. You may need somebody to push you, and Poetics U will definitely just give you a different perspective, will give you a new, fresh face, a new idea, a new way to look at love, a new way to think about what happens after death. And I really look forward to rewriting reality. Honestly, that is actually one of the classes I am most excited about, is the rewriting reality class.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking forward to Invigorate, and mind you, that's the one I'm doing, but I'm intrigued to see what I write out of it, because I had issues making the class. So I'm intrigued to see what comes out of it for myself. But I think it'll be very interesting to see rewriting reality, because we have a new professor with us who will be doing some great things. But enough about Poetics U. Can you tell us, Tony, as you sip on your cup, who is today's episode brought to you by?
Oh, sorry. Did y'all hear that?
I don't know if they heard it, but I'm watching you. I'm kind of jealous because I didn't brew my tea this episode. I almost killed my computer last episode, so I'm not gonna. I don't want to do it again this time.
Oh man. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can get it. Okay, you heard it this time. Okay, so have you ever tea to your taste? Like, you know what that is? No? Well, there is a new tea company in town that cares about your preference in your tea experience. Dainty Co. has created a tea blend kit that gives you 5 tubes filled with quality loose leaf tea and botanicals. They have they have 2 kits actually now, and each one gives you a different set of tea and botanicals. So there's a main tea, and then there's botanicals like ginger and rose petals. You know, those are not teas, but those are the botanicals that you can mix and match with the tea to create your own blend to your liking and your taste. You can call it a little tea alchemy kit. And that's what I call it. I feel like a scientist when I'm a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a pinch of that, and then I splash a little milk in there. Sometimes milk does not come with it, just to just to give you that disclaimer. But you can always add that to their chai, which they just released a new chai blend. So go jump into this new way of teaing by going to www.daintyco.com, and that's DAINTEACO.com, and use the word use the code WORD at the checkout and get 10% off, because you got it from us, because you heard it here. So that's the tea. Now let's get back to the words.
Terrific. Thank you. So we didn't get any words of wisdom questions today, but I was at the Sisters in Business Expo this weekend. And so the Sisters in Business Expo is the only sisters in business expo that's in multiple cities. It is an expo for Black women entrepreneurs. This, of course, I think is in 5 different cities at this point. So this was the last one for the 2021 year. The new dates for 2022, going back in time, hasn't been released yet. But Jersey is where it started 3 years ago, and Jersey is where it's ended this year, because it's flipped calendar, COVID, everything. We're waiting to see when the new dates arrive. But anyway, I was at the expo, and there's this woman who came by, and she was not a vendor. She came by with her books in her hand, which is always a good hustle, a side hustle for people to do, even though it's mixed feelings about that, whatever. I was really excited for her in the sense that she had told us that one of her books had gotten optioned by one of the channels. I want to say not Lifetime, but one of those type of channels. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then she said TV One is trying to option her newest book, which is also terrific for her. And she said she was really happy to see us here at the tables doing our thing because I am a book vendor. So I had all 4 of my books, technically 5, because I had the one that I made at home at the table, and I was there with my roommate. But she never inquired anything about me, my books, what I did at the table. She just walked around with her books in her hand and sort of talked about herself and all the things in which she's doing. And so for that person, I would give some words of wisdom that the best way to really market yourself is not just to talk about yourself, but to also find out and invest in other people. Especially when you're at an event where people are there selling their wares. We care more about you when you also engage with us about what we're doing. If you're just there trying to sell yourself and you didn't even put up the money that we did to cover this table, yeah, so my word of advice is if you go to these events and if you're not there, if you're on a hustle, then you hustle with a way in which you're also offering something to people. There were several people there with podcasts, and I look forward to actually trying to join them, because then that's a mutual exchange, right? I get to go on their podcast, they get to have a new guest. That is an exchange where we both support each other and benefit each other by them being there. They didn't have to have a table. They are going through and finding out who's around, but they get a chance to amplify me. And then, of course, my audience gets to go to them. That's one thing. But you don't go to other people's tables and just talk about yourself.
Yeah.
So my word of advice, when you go to these vending events and you see people, unless you're really seeking advice from someone as to how to do it, but even if you do that, then you also buy something from them. You still engage with them because it is a mutual exchange. These people are at these events. It costs them, most events, most tables cost over $100. Most tables cost $200 to $300, if not more, if you're talking about bigger events. So these people have spent a lot of money, time, and energy to try to be at these events. If you want to get something from them, even if it's advice or support, then sign up on their mailing list, engage with them, even buy the cheapest item on their table, then there's a reason to actually have an exchange of discourse. Otherwise, don't try to sell yourself or take up space at their table because they're on a business, like I'm glad for her. I'm really excited for her. I'm happy when, even if it's not my genre of interest that she does. And I asked her about what genre it was. And because she started talking, I'm good. When my sister wins, we all wins. That is the slogan of the Sisters in Business Expo. So yay for her. I'm really hyped for her. And I mean, like, even at the expo, I walked by one table. This one woman had a shirt that made me so mad because I liked it. And I hate the color green. And I just said something like, man, I hate the color green, but I liked what was written on it. And she goes, really, we have it in your size, and goes bloop, and drops open the shirt on me. And I was like, fine, here's my card. I don't like you. Go away. I don't know what you're doing at this table. You have some juju happening. I hope it goes well. Sell all the stuff. Good luck. Have a great day. And I walked away salty with my new t-shirt in a color that I hate. Because it was amazing. Like, I'm really happy to have supported this sister and her business, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's an exchange. It's an exchange. We're there trying to do this business, and we have to support each other. You can't just go there wanting to not support other people and just talk about yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think it's something that you have to learn. And I'm glad that we're actually talking about it here, although it was through that experience. Sorry it had to be that way. But
Cool.
I think it's, when people are navigating this industry, the writing industry, it is, you're trying to get yourself out there. But it's the business side that a lot of writers don't understand. And the business side is networking is not about, pushing your idea onto someone else and then, oh, that person buys something from you so they're a part of your network. No, that's not how it goes. It's an exchange, a mutual benefit. If you make a relationship with a bookstore, let's say, oh wow, that's great for you, but understand they're not doing this because they just want to help you out. They are doing that usually when you get to the larger ones. The smaller ones actually will do that, but when you get to the larger ones that really bring up your career, you know, you want that relationship needs to be mutual. So if they're going to have you in their store, they want to know that, oh, you're going to be promoting their store. You know, you're going to say, oh, my book is also available at, you know, Strand's bookstore. You know, you're not just, oh, great, I got my, they're going to be selling my book all day long. No, that's not how it works,
You're
and that's not
driving
how
traffic to that store.
yeah, that's not how business works. And that's why also, if you are struggling with like getting published and things like that, as far as a book inside of a small inside of a press, they're looking for a mutual exchange, because they're producing a book and in hopes to actually make a profit in their investment into you. So if they're looking at your Facebook and they're looking at, or your Instagram, and you don't have a brand there, you don't have followers that's actually, you know, that if they hear about a book launch, they're going to be running to their store, or I'm sorry, to their distribution outlets, then they're going to be less likely to accept you. So you have to think about the business side as well, and it comes down to things like simple things like what you were talking about. If you go to an event, you know, don't go there as a salesperson. Like, especially if you haven't paid for a, you know, you paid your admission to get in, but that's for the people that's actually buying stuff, really, ideally. But if you actually got in, and don't bring your book around trying to sell it to the people at the table, when that's what they're there for, you know. And that's just bad business. And
Yeah. And I mean, and just to add to what you were saying, this is also the case of if you're a performing artist, right? Like, here's the thing. Promoters got to bring people. Promoters got to bring people because they're the promoter.
yeah,
But promoters don't want you if you ain't bringing your audience with you.
yeah,
So you have to pick up people as you perform. You have to bring your network. And I said this on a post on Facebook, and I put it on my Instagram. Other poets are not your network.
mm,
Your coworkers,
mm,
your family, the person you met at an event who just likes listening to poetry, the person who signed your mailing list. Half of the people who signed my mailing list, what did we say as they signed the mailing list? Oh, I'm going off Broadway soon. So
yeah,
they know that they're going to get an email that says, I'm doing this event, come see me perform in New York City.
yeah.
So that now they are being indoctrinated to, I'm a performer, come support me this way.
And I
Because
just hold on. I just want to vouch. I've done events with Dara, and 80. Will have 50 people there, and maybe 80% of them. I'm sorry, maybe 20% of them are poets, or from the poetry community. Everyone else is from colleagues, is from friends at school, people that may not even have a creative bone in their body, but they're there to support her because they appreciate the craft, or they may be an artist in a different realm, just not a poet, and
or
they
they like me.
appreciate it, or they like you, you know, because that is your network, is the people that actually like you.
Exactly.
not
I mean,
not the ones that just buying just obligation, you know.
here's the thing. There's this one guy who comes to all my performances, right? Or most of them in person. He's mostly in my in-person performances. He's come to a few online, but he's mostly an in-person person.
Hmm.
He was not my friend. I didn't know this dude. I got a friend to perform at a venue that you know, that I know. I got a friend to perform her, like, she had just written a book, she was performing there. She brought this guy to it because he was her friend. And I'm at the venue. I like to get there early because I like to get my prime seat or my favorite seat. I'm looking around, you know, the whole place does not look like us. So I sit next to the one black dude and he and I start chatting because he is an extrovert and he's chatting. And I decided to open mic that night because, you know, I also don't want her to be the only black person on stage, even though she's a feature. And so he hears me perform. He's like, oh, that was really good. This dude now comes to all of my performances. He's not a performer, but he is like, when he comes in, they don't even ask him who he's here for anymore, because they know he's here for me, because he has attached himself to me as a performer, and now we're friends. We ended up being co-workers after the fact. We weren't co-workers before. Then he ended up getting a job at my job randomly, and that's solidified our relationship. But you have to find your audience. You have to let your audience find you, and then you have to bring them. While a promoter must also have their own following, their own list, and bring people consistently to an event, they're not going to book you if you don't bring people.
Yeah.
So you're always got to do the work. The same thing, like being at the Sisters in Business Expo, one of the first things they tell you on the contract when we sign up to do it is you are required to promote to your networks. So promote to your networks. Promote to your networks.
We're going to leave you right there because we have a lot to go through before the end, because I know how we get with the next segment. So promote to your network. We're going to leave you right there, and we're going to go to the next segment. So the next segment, we changed it from frustrations to now it's called Let's Talk About It. So we're going to talk about some things that, y'all are probably going to feel, and it's going to be like, amen. Yes, that right there. Yes, that part. So, who's first? Me?
Sure.
I'll go. So, there may be sometimes when we talk about the arts community, there may be sometimes where we just talk about what's happening in life. And mine is coming from life today. Mine is, let's talk about it. Traffic. If you actually drive, then you know what I'm talking about. If you drive in the metro area, I don't know how it is in San Francisco or any other, but in New York City, Jersey, and everywhere around the city, starting in September, and it's a specific day, September 13th. That's when the little kids and the big kids went back to school. And now traffic is ridiculous. My drive went from 45 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes. Mind you, they have also worked on the road, opened up a new bridge, which I would think if you're opening up something new, it's actually made to stop traffic or make traffic better. But no, this actually adds a little bit more. Now, let's talk about it. If you drive, and now your time is now double, what do you do as a creative during that time period? What are some of the things that you actually do? I have now become a great podcast streamer or listener. Shout out to all of the podcasts that I listen to. Let me see. Let me shout out some. The Read is one of them. Hattress and Stony Tony just launched a podcast called Poetry. I started listening to that. And what else?
Ethically Immoral.
Ethically Immoral, yes. And who else? Who else do I tell you about? Is there anyone else? I do this real estate one. That's a side thing that I'm trying to get into real estate. So
Do you listen to Words I Never Said? Because I've fallen off on my podcast a little bit.
I do. I have listened to that. I only have an hour and a half, so it's like.
Well, Words I Never Said is actually super short, usually.
Words I Never Said. I think, yeah. Was that one that we were on?
No, but
Words I Never Said.
Words I Never Said is actually promoted through Ethically Immoral. So.
Oh, okay. I know. I know the title.
Yeah. So usually when you listen to Ethically Immoral, Words I Never Said is one that is in like their commercials. And so Words I Never Said is actually just right? Like, yeah, it's just like a 30-minute podcast or something like that. Super.
I see it.
Yeah.
I had to start. I didn't actually. I subscribed, so I must have subscribed because I listened to when I listened to Ethically Immoral. But yeah, so I would like some ideas of what else, because I'm at the verge. Like, I can't wait till I can get a Tesla because it drives itself, and so it can be pressing on the gas, pressing on the brake, pressing on the gas, pressing on the brake, and I don't have to. I could be doing something like writing a poem. I could be doing something like all of the other things that I do. Working on any one of the many projects. Called the entrepreneur poet for a reason. So, um, but I just would like to have some ideas. So if you have anything, let's talk about it. Send me some ideas, and I'll put a post as well. What can you do during traffic to keep to be a creative? Because it seems like the worst activity ever for a creative. It's like I'm enchained for almost 2 hours, back and forth. So
Which
that's
is
4 hours a day.
which is funny because for me, having to go back into the office 2 days a week has enabled me to get back to reading, which I couldn't do before because I don't really read at home. So
Lucky
it's
you.
making me read again,
Train,
which
right?
is I'm very happy because I take the train. And it like I'm
Don't
sitting
smile while you say train. Don't smile while
I
you
gotta
say
say,
train.
like, I was sitting here going, like, and because I am preparing to memorize, it also is when I can work on memorization. So I do,
Everything. Yes.
but if you are working on memorization, I don't know how well it is for driving, but you can do it. I've done it for walking. There is a
Record
memory.
it and then listen to it.
So yeah, but there's a particular technique. There's a drop-in technique. It's a theatrical technique where if you say the words and you let it, it's a call and response kind of way. So
Mhm.
if I would say, um, let's talk about it, you would say, let's talk about it. And then we discuss frustrations. And so you would just repeat it. So when I was doing it
The
for
word
walking,
and then pause it.
yeah, so I don't pause it. I just let it record. Like I would record it, let's talk about it. And then but I would leave enough space
Oh,
so
so
that
you
I could say it out
record it.
loud.
Got you. Okay.
And so it is because you're not seeing the words, it's going into your brain in a different way. And so it is a memorization, it's an acting memorization technique
Oh, I'm
called
I'm
drop
trying
in.
this. Oh wow. I've been trying to figure out a quick way to remember something.
So
Okay.
so I have done it. I've done it for walking. I don't know how it works for driving because it may be a distraction. I don't know if it will work that same way.
No, it can work.
But if you
I can
record,
send an email.
so if you record yourself before you hop in the car reading it, but leave enough space in between each line so that you can repeat the line again, it will help you get through the words. And don't say the lines when you're saying them any
Yeah.
emphatic way. It's just the line because the whole thing
Okay.
is just to get the words in. It's not about the tone because then you'll get locked into the tone and you're not trying to do
Yeah.
that. You're just trying to get the words. So
Okay.
let's talk about it.
I'm definitely going to try that. Thank you. Thank
You're
you. We
welcome.
talked about it, but I would still like to hear from you all. I need some more things. I'm going to start remembering poems now on my drive. What else can I do? Let me
Yeah.
know. Can I paint a Picasso? No, no, I
No,
can't
let's
paint.
not
No.
do that while you're driving. I've seen someone play
Let
a
me know.
guitar while they're driving, but let's not do that
I've seen
either.
I've seen women do it. You know, they paint a
Let's not. Let's
Picasso on
not. Mm-mm.
the.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna
What's
talk
your topic?
about I'm in a poetry group online. I keep giving out way too much information. I hope these groups don't come for me and I get blacklisted. I'm just gonna say that one day.
Yeah, you got to censor because I don't want to be a part of the ransom that they get. Be
Seriously, I
like,
be
yo,
saying
you
too
want
much.
your partner back?
So I'm seriously. So I'm part of this I'm part of this New England poetry group.
Ooh,
And
you gonna
somebody in the
name them?
group, huh?
Oh,
That's not
that's
the
not the
name.
name.
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, come
I
on.
don't even know their name off the top of my head. It's just a New England poetry group.
Okay.
And so, but I say it's a New England poetry group just to emphasize that the dynamic of the group from the posters are primarily white, but it is a mixed group, right?
Yeah.
They do announce things from all communities when there's poetically inclined, but it is still seeming to be a very white leaning group in general. So today they posted about Howard University, and apparently this is something that started, this is like in April or something, but Howard University has decided to dismantle their Western Studies program, or their Western Studies department, to their classical Western Studies department, meaning that like the classics, when you hear the classics, what do you think of? You think of Eurocentric classics.
Yeah.
You think of Homer, you think of Shakespeare, you think of all of.
This is funny because I thought you were talking about something else about Howard, but go ahead.
No, okay, so
you didn't hear about the other thing?
I don't know what the other thing is.
Oh no. Okay, continue. We'll yeah, it may be offline.
So yes, let's make that offline because this may
offline.
Okay, so Howard University has decided back in April, apparently, this just got to our group today, or in the last day or so, that they are getting rid of they're dismantling their classic studies program. They're not getting rid of the professors. The classes are not being taught. This just not the department. So you can still get the classes, I guess, probably like as part of their history class or something, right? But Howard University is a historically Black college and university. It's part of the HBCUs. It is one of the most well-known, right? There's a whole thing about which one's the real HU because there's 2 HUs in the historically Black university, right? Mm-hmm. So there's all of that, and they so the group, who again looks less like me and looks more like the opposite of me, we're all like, so there's a post by Colonel West who wrote a op-ed about it, and so that's what was circulating through the group today. And Colonel West, who I respect in many ways, was like, well, this is narrow-minded of Howard, that they shouldn't be cutting out the Western studies, that, you know, Dr. King and Frederick Douglass all looked to this for their philosophies. We shouldn't just throw away the baby with the bathwater, right? Is their main concept, is that there's some good things that came out of it. And while everything is white-centric or Eurocentric, we should still not necessarily, there's still things in there that's usable. The fact is that Howard, again, did not get rid of these things. You can still take these classes. These professors are still there, but it is a Black college with a program that is Eurocentric, that had a program or a department that was Eurocentric focused. I applaud them for taking this step versus, and I understand what, I know we're going to disagree. I understand what Colonel West is trying to say. And again, they didn't get rid of it. It's still on the school. But I think the point is that we don't ever talk about Kemetic teachings. We don't talk about we don't ever go back to the philosophies going back to Egypt or to any other parts of Africa that we know that the first people were from there, from the continent. That's not what we have deemed as classics, because your European history has deemed itself the history of classics. That is where we deem and stop everything. That is where we say poetry has really started, but we know that griots were passing stories forever. There's a whole point historically that they would not say that the Swahili people existed. They did not believe the Swahili people existed for as long as they did, because they didn't understand that most of the Swahili people and their tradition was oral, until they started finding holes in the ground that proved they were actually there before they thought they were. So there's a whole lot of our history, a lot of history from the continent that has never been acknowledged, that goes way past where we stop and say classics. So I think it's important, especially for a Black institution, to sort of say, we're not going to center white level of classic there, that we can actually say that there's other things, and it's not getting rid of it, because I think absolutely, and I'm not disagreeing with Colonel West that we need to know this stuff. I think the classics are, like, even when we talk about poetry, right? We have to know the T.S. Eliot's, we have to know the E.E. Cummings, we have to know the Shakespeare's, we have to know all of this to be able to be versed in this stuff, right? We have to know these 4 founders and framers of our poetic craft for whatever it is. But we should also acknowledge that the griots were passing these words long before these people were doing anything. So I think
Can
I
I
salute
just
Howard University for the move that they made. And I wish that as much, and like I said, baby activist Dara didn't understand that you could have a name that didn't necessarily tied to your ancestry, and or you could be Afro-Latino, because there's a place for both in this world.
Yeah.
And that you could
Yeah.
also be, you also may need to be a little bit more humble, or understanding that there's still a place for learning, and a place for, it doesn't have to be one or the other, but it could be both. I think,
Yeah.
and I think Howard is doing both. I think they didn't they didn't dismantle it. They dismantled the program. They didn't get rid of the teaching. The teaching is still there. The teachers are still there. You can still take the courses. But the hierarchy tied to it, the imagery of it, has been dismantled. And so I
But-
salute them for doing that. And I think Colonel West should maybe consider that, again, the teachers are there, the courses are still there, but the optics of this white saviorism, or this white hierarchy, or this white place of power or understanding or classics that was defined by a global minority, it just does not need to be the end all be all of how we define education.
So it's saying that they removed demolished the department, or not demolished, but abolished the department. So basically, you won't have a degree in classic studies anymore. You
From
can't
there,
get you
go
can't
somewhere
get a
else.
degree. That's wrong.
Go
That's
somewhere
wrong.
else.
That is
Not
wrong.
every school has the same degrees. Go
But
somewhere
why
else.
would you? But why end a department except to make a statement? And this statement is not unified. It's not unifying. It's actually
why are you at a HBCU to go study white folk?
because we are in a society that was built. It was constructed by their teaching.
Yes, and the
Their
point, that's the
education
problem.
is
That therein is the problem. That
no,
therein
that's
is the
not the
problem.
problem. Even if you, because I have an African guy, and I actually was having this conversation because I was wondering, what do they actually learn about history? Because of course ours is slavery and stuff. We don't get anything about what was happening over there until it was colonized. So what do they learn about their history in their culture and everything? And they were telling me that, you know, I have one that's from Ghana and one that's from Egypt now. And they were saying that they actually learn about their history just like we learn about American history. And so I feel that even in Asia, they're not going to learn about African American history as any part of their, although it is something in the world, they're not going to have that part of their history.
No one's saying.
No.
I don't understand what you just said.
Because you're taking because, and we're here. We African and black a black institution is an American institution. If you go over to Africa, it's not a black institution. It is, there's black people all over there, so it's not a black institution over there.
Okay.
So we're here. We're an American institution. And so our history, or the things that we study, is based off of our society.
Yeah. But our society is based off of Homer, which is not an American institution or a writer.
But it is the descendants of the people that actually came over here and established what we call institutions.
Yes, but
so
they're
as
also
a respect to the institutions,
also
we have to keep
but,
it.
But here's the thing: is they're also the colonizers of those places in which you're talking about, the people who tampered with.
So if you want to know about
Ghana,
the history of Africa, you go and you get into an African school, and then you will learn
but it's not even just about, it's not so much just about, it's back to this idea of, and I don't even know that I'd have to do more understanding on my own on this critical race theory, right? Because I don't even know the critical race theory. I think a lot of it, from my understanding, again, I don't have a very deep understanding of it. I think some people think critical race theory is just any race theory that's not white conversation in schools. So I don't even think that term is being used properly, because I don't think the critical race theory conversation is actually in critical race theory. I think it's just anything that's not white, in a lot of ways in which we use the conversation. That said, either way, I think the point is about decolonizing the conversation around education. It's not really to say that like it's not saying so much that there's no value in Homer, there's no value in any of that. I grew up loving I love Greek mythology. The first time I could take classes, my first papers were all on Greek mythology. Like I loved it, right? Yeah. When I had a chance to take a college course in high school, the class I took was Greek mythology and I loved every moment of it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying let's not read Homer. As a theater person, you have to read the Odyssey, you have to read the Iliad, you have to read Shakespeare. That's all the beginnings of it. I'm not knocking that. My issue here is that why do we act like that's really the beginning of everything? It is not. The fact is that it's not. And we keep
but
continuing
having
to
a department
it.
doesn't mean that though.
It does.
Having one department.
If the department's sole focus is this point in time or this learning and understanding that is a Eurocentric belief system, then yes, that's the problem. The problem is that it was a Eurocentric thought process. And so they are just sitting there going, no, we're not going to do that. It's not like you can't learn the stuff. It's still classes in the school. So it's more just about decentering Eurocentric philosophy.
But it is a classic in our institutions.
Why is it a classic? Because some white people said it was?
Where our institutions were formed. No, because of the influence.
Because white people said it was.
Our influence, the way that our institutions are based on that.
Who said?
What? Who? History, time, documentation.
Who tells history? The victors, right? Who tells history? The victors? The victors tell history?
So
the victors tell history are the ones who were the colonizers, the ones who took over, the ones who used manifest destiny as a reason to take over communities, kill people, give them smallpox, and destroy whole populations, right?
Yes.
So they are the ones who decided all of this. What
did
they look
they didn't
like?
decide it. I'm saying
they're the ones who set the standard, and they're the ones who set this is the classic.
Yeah, institution.
Yeah, they're the same ones who set the white Jesus too.
Institution.
Yeah, they're the one same people.
When you form an institution,
who forgot that the Bible says woolly hair.
Yes, the same.
They made him look like themselves.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the problem.
People. The same people.
Yeah, that's the problem. They said that this was the classics. They also said Jesus didn't have woolly hair and he had blue eyes.
But why can't it be the classics of our institution?
Of whose institution? Of theirs.
American education. Yes,
because American. You're right. It is a classic to American institution because American institution is built by colonizers who sat there and killed the indigenous and enslaved Africans.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It would still be a classic. Even if they let them live, it would have still been a classic.
Maybe
of
not,
American
because you know what? Some indigenous folklore stories, ancestry information would have probably resonated and became
okay. I'm saying if it stays segmented, if they didn't kill them or whatever, if that wasn't part of it, they had separate places for each other. This would still be the. It would be
their classics.
What? I'm not saying slaves got out of it. I'm saying indigenous people. Slaves still. I'm saying if everything.
There would be some people's classics and other people's classics. No, just like this.
But African American would not have a classic because our history was dispersed.
Our history would have been tied to whatever history that was tied to the people in which we came from.
Victims don't have classics.
Oh, they do.
They don't.
They just have been erased. And so why are we going to choose the history of the one who took over from us?
Okay, if you want to start an institution in Africa and you want to have people come from here, like if you want to have a branch of Howard Institute University over in Africa to actually teach a particular department that goes over history from the African point of view, then do that. But to dismantle one here, no one, because there's white kids that actually go there too.
Yeah,
So
sure.
now it's not an option for them to actually take and earn a degree in
Just like
classic
it's not an
studies.
option for me to go to a white school and learn about Black history. Not
Yes,
really.
it is. Almost
Barely.
every single one has Black studies. What are you talking about?
Not all of them.
Columbia has a Black study degree. You can get
Not
you
all of
can
them
get a
do.
degree. Most of them have in 2 days. 2 days time. Most of them have a
Have you
Black
looked at
study.
most of the schools?
I know. Well, I don't know. Of course, I didn't.
Okay,
look
so
at
let's
most
not
of
make
them.
blanket statements that we don't know and insecure about. But either
Okay.
way, so I didn't challenge you on your point of traffic. I'm just going to say this is what I feel needs to be spoken about. I think even as we get older, we have to be able to be flexible and see the different perspectives. I understand and appreciate what he believes he is saying and is what he is saying, but even in his own op-ed, he has, Dr. West has made it clear, even in his own op-ed, that they didn't, even though they dismantled the program, they are still offering the courses. So therefore, his own argument is moot in his own description. So therefore, I think I salute Howard for taking a momentous step. My hat's off to them.
Okay, hold on. So it's not the same. If you actually want to, and I'm not challenging. We're talking. So
No, we're not.
This is called Let's Talk. We'll talk about it. So when you actually dissolve a department, you're also dissolving funding. So a person can't actually get a master's degree in classic studies. They can't go over to Rome or and study, ancient Roman history or anything anymore because it's not funded anymore by it, or a doctorate degree if they had something like that. So it changes now the offering and the educational experience from those that may have wanted. I mean, if we're talking about, okay, dissolving it because no one's taking
go
it.
to Howard, choose a different institution.
Okay. So you see that we're different on this. So if you actually have something to commit to this conversation.
In the end of the day, that's it, right? Like when I was looking for my master's program, I wanted to do an MFA in theater. I wanted to do directing. I chose 2 directing programs to apply to. And then I was like, just in case, let me go do this educational theater program to apply to as well. There were other MFA programs, but I didn't want to go further away from New York. I didn't want to do theatrical writing. I could choose what I wanted to do or not to do. The MFA programs didn't choose me. I auditioned for one. I didn't get in. The other one just flat out said no. Cool. This one said yes. Now I could have taken this. I could have gone or I could have waited again and tried to go to the school, try to go get the master's. The other one I wanted, right? I still had choices. When I decided to go to get an MPA, I said, I'm only applying to one school and they will take me or I won't go. And I was fine with that. There's 2 CUNYs in the system there's only 2 CUNYs, There's a lot of CUNYs. There's only 2 CUNYs that have MPAs. Yeah. And so I could either not get an MPA. I could have gone to a private school and pick up the debt. I could apply to both CUNYs. I said, no, I only want this MPA. I do not want to pick up the debt. I applied to this school. They take me, I go. They don't take me. This is not in the cards for me at this moment. Not now, maybe later. We all get to choose. If Howard don't have the program you want because you want to study white classics, go find a school that has it for you. There's many that do.
I agree with your point. I understand that, but I see it as that would be something that you would say if they didn't offer it at one particular point. But
and now they
defund
don't.
it, I think they're making a point, and the point will be made, and it will be something that is it's controversial in nature. But those things that breeds the conversation. That's what I'm saying. It's the conversation. So if you guys have a input on this. What is your feeling about this what Howard University did? Do you feel like they should have kept the classics department, or do you feel that dissolving it is the right thing due to the institution that Howard is, and what it means? It's the uplifting of Black America. We're educating, or they're educating a population that didn't have fair education at its origin. And so, does this go against their principles, or does it not? So you tell us. I think it's a good conversation piece, because it you can go both ways and for different reasons.
And I will say, in the group that I'm part of, there was only one white gentleman who actually essentially
Agreed.
said what I said. And
Yeah.
that was before I said anything. And then I said, I completely agree with him. Another
Yeah.
person co-signed him, it looks like, for the most part, except for he again went further than the person who co-signed him. But the rest of the group was like, yay, Colonel West. And I'm just like, yeah, y'all would, because he's saying what upholds your own philosophies, belief, and mirrors your own image. So there's that, but that's all good. Yay.
Now, when I tell you about why Howard University is in the news, you go be like, oh.
That's fine. I mean, I didn't go to, and it's funny that I'm going so hard for them. I didn't go to the HBCU.
I know you gonna be like,
I mean, every place is fallible, but for this point, I stand by them. The next point, who knows?
Okay. Well,
so what we got going on? No problem. We got some announcements.
So we have announcements.
I'm gonna announce the same thing I've been announcing, because I don't have anything else to announce. December 3rd, I am honoring the memory of my grandfather by going off Broadway at the Triad, by performing and representing the BX. So yes, the BX.
Why does everybody do it?
I'm going to be loud and proud about that. I'm actually working on memorization, because Tony keeps telling me I suck when I'm not memorized. So I'm going to work on that. I'm not memorizing most of the set.
Do not endorse that statement. I never said that.
He always, after I set, he's always like, well, I know what you can do, and you're so much better when you're memorized. Mind you, Tony has heard me do like 3 poems memorized. He's not heard many poems memorized, but whatever.
Constructive criticism.
Whatever. So anyway, that all said, December 3rd, I am doing, oh, wow, it's thunderstorming now.
I got my ticket.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're coming, and I hope other people come. We're trying to sell out the theater.
Hurry up.
The theater goes as far as 115 tickets. We have sold about 1/3 of this theater so far. So come get your tickets. Come join us at the Triad. Tell them Dara sent you, because that matters. I really want the real show. So this is one show where there's more of us performing. I want to do the 3-person show where I got to sell more tickets, but where I get more time and can really do an uninhibited set. This set is locked in because it's about, I got to represent the Bronx. When I don't have to represent the Bronx, when there's no bars on me with that, then I want to do the real thing for you. So help me get to the real thing by coming to this one, because this is real too. Okay. But I want that 30-minute set so that I can show you what I really can do. So that said, there's that. Poetics U. So we've already talked about Poetics U already, Tony and I. Tony is the founder of Poetics U. I am the vice president. We have been doing this thing. We love this thing. We are really invested in helping students across the entire globe better their own writing by making a space for them to have that opportunity. Our classes start on October 31st, which is Halloween here in the States. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's Halloween everywhere, but there's so many international holidays now that we're trying to keep track of that we can't figure out which one's which. I know that India is having their holiday season right now. So join us with Poetics U. We have 7 workshops. Like he said, we vary from love. We talk about life after death. We talk about rewriting reality. We do things that are nothing personal. We help you be reinvigorated. We do poetic forms. We're doing all of those things. So join us for our term, but also we cannot continue to do what we do without support. And so we don't really charge a lot for our classes. The classes that people do that equal what we're doing charge at least $50 per class per person. We are charging $7. And it's not that we're trying to low price ourselves. We want to make sure that everyone across the planet can join us. And so we can only do that by keeping a price point at a reasonable place. That said, we have a benefit show coming up on November 13th. We are having quite a few dynamic poets from all over the United States come through, and not even just people who are tied to Poetics U, but they are lending their craft and their audience to support us as we try to raise some funds so that we can change our platform, so that we can actually do the daggone thing and keep making sure that we can keep these classes at a low cost and keep creating the amazing work, the creative books that we're doing and everything. So join us on November 13th for our benefit show. Also join us for our classes, help stretch if you feel like you need to stretch your work. And when I say we have everyone joining, we have had teenagers joining us, we've had people who have never written a poem a day in their life, really. And then we've had poetry professors who are credentialed come and do it, and all grow from within a week. They're stretched within a week, and all of our classes are only a week long. So join us for those two things, whether it's our workshops or it's our benefit concert, benefit show, which will be so fire. You don't want to miss that event. So join us. Tony, I know you got a lot going on with 2i Publishing. What's up?
Yeah, let me run through it. I'll run through it real quick. So 2i Publishing, we have, I think I announced it last time. We had the pre-orders releasing for Isle of Sky by Natalie Nasenzi, and then Grimoire by Jacob R. Moses. These are now, if you pre-order, your books are coming. Actually, Isle of Sky, you should have already received it. And Grimoire, that should be out to you. He just signed them today, so they'll be out to you shortly. We also have BYOBB, which is Bring Your Own Book and Bottle, is going to be starting back. So if you are a self-published author and you want to be a part of an amazing event that connects you with your readers and new readers as well from our network, then please reach out to 2i Publishing and go to Instagram, and that's I Publishing, and you may be placed as one of the authors on this upcoming event. So, and it's basically about 8 weeks long, and each week there's a new author that comes to a reading, and you get to be one-on-one with your readers, or intimate, not one-on-one, but 1-on-30 or however many people are there, and they get to ask you questions. You get to talk about what was your inspiration behind your words. So it's a really good time, and as authors,
you set the tone for your reading, but you get to have an experience that you really can't have in a traditional book signing. Yeah. It's a great experience. I've been to all but one, I think, and it's amazing each time. So you definitely, if you're a self-published author, show up. And if you know self-published authors, you should definitely tell them to check out this event, because there's no event like it.
Great. And she's also been a author on the BYOBB. So speaking of self-published authors, if you are looking to get your book into other avenue, we just released something called Stream, or we're releasing something called Stream for self-published authors to have space in our bookstore. Nothing up front that you have to pay. If you want more information about that, reach out to 2i Publishing again, and we'll provide you with information about that. Along with that, we have, what is it? Simple. I wrote 2i Publishing. Simple. And that is where if you are working on a book and you don't want to go the traditional route, but you want to kind of get help on particular aspects or processes inside of the book publishing part or self-publishing process, then you can reach out to us. We can help you out with cover design. We can help you out with uploading to Kindle, making an ebook, uploading to Amazon, getting your book available on Amazon, as well as ISBN help and even management help. We have those services as well. So please do reach out for that. And the last thing is my own personal project, which is called the Panda Book. And that is a notebook slash sketchbook. And it's all black pages. And it comes with or it can come with a white pen. And you can write in white rather than write in black on white paper. So write in white. And it's all about being different. So that one, I feel that I try my best to be different, not going with the crowd, not being sheep, but think differently. And as creatives, that's what we try to do. We don't want to be confined. We want to be different, think different. So that book is kind of a symbolic representation of being a creative. So go in and support that that project. And yeah, that's it. So the next segment is going to be the top of the dome. We
Top of the
love
dome.
top of the dome.
Top of the dome.
Dome.
Top of the
Top
dome.
of the dome. So this is where we, Dara and I, we pick 5 random words from today's podcast, combined with the word of the episode, and we do an impromptu poem designed just for you from the top of our heads. It's really not designed; it's from the top of our heads. So whatever. So we're going to do that right now. And I think I went first last time. I'm going to always say
Yeah.
that.
No, you did. It's my
Oh, I
turn.
did. Okay. I
It's
went.
my
I went.
turn.
So
And
the
even if you
words.
didn't go first, I want to go first because I want this over with. You can do better than me, and it's just get over with it.
So the words that we have selected from this episode is petrichor, petrichor, petrichor. I think I said
Petrichor. Yeah.
petrichor. There we go. Petrichor, petrichor. Point, love, traffic, practice, and black. Point, love, traffic, practice, and black. Also petrichor. So again, the rules are if you actually want to take this challenge, either record yourself or you can write something. You don't have to do it impromptu off the dome. You can write something and take our challenge for this episode. Use those 5 words and make a poem, whatever inspires you about these words and the combination um, that you get when you use them. So, Dara, without further ado, let's go.
The thunder just landed on my windowsill and it filled me with joy, knowing that soon my nostrils will be met with the petrichor that I have not smelled in so long. It's almost like the scent of Tommy that wafts towards me that used to waft off of you. The smell was that of love. It came off of your black skin. Those days back then, I think of them now as I sit here pondering what I will do as I wait in traffic tomorrow without you. Will I practice my poems and recitation of anticipation of not seeing you? Will I point to an horizon that has not you in it? I do not know. I just know that the smell in this moment just reminds me so much of you, the love I once knew.
Did you use black?
Your black skin.
You didn't say black?
I say your black skin.
Oh, okay.
Trying to catch me out there, sir.
I know I was. I was trying to catch you. Because it was on the second line, so I didn't know if you got to it.
It was one of the first ones I used.
Of course.
It was like it was the smell of Tommy coming off of your, it was like the smell of Tommy, the smell of love that came off of your black skin.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I had reached a point when the clouds became black thunder roared, and I had become dark within. I had reached a point where my veins and my blood cells were stuck in traffic, never being able to reach my heart. I had reached a point where I had to practice being near you. And I had to relish the distance when we were apart. I had reached a point when love, the word, was not enough. The desert that I felt in the dry air that went into my nostrils created caves and cavities within my soul. No more did I feel the way I once felt for you. No more did I feel that love could ever endure. No more is what you gave to me. But then I met her. And the more time I spent, the more it was heaven sent, the more my nostrils that were filled with cavities now was filled with the scent of petrichor. I relished the moment when she replaced everything that was you.
You added a sixth one in there, pulling my nostrils out of there.
So that was fun.
Yeah, no, I actually ended up liking that. So there's that. So anyway, I think we made it to the end. Thank you for listening to Word2Wordz, the Poets Podcast. This episode was made possible by Dainty. And we want to give a special shout out to Mike Payne and the Ethically Immoral podcast that just reached 2,500 downloads and started their 4th volume. So they just released episode 1 from volume 4. So check them out over there. They've helped us out, and we want to make sure we shout them out because that is a dope podcast. So make sure you check them out. Exactly. They're almost like our podcast mentors. So we love them over there, and make sure you are supporting Ethically Immoral. The theme song was brought to you by the skill of Eric Ty Sky, the DJ White. He is dope. So make sure you keep an eye on what he's doing. Book him for your DJ needs or listen to his music. And we are your hosts. I am Zara Kalima, the community poet.
And I am Tony Two Eyes, the entrepreneur poet.
Reach out to us by submitting your words for the episode, for your frustrations, the things you want to talk about, the things you did or didn't agree with us on. We definitely want to hear from you. And even poets that you think we should highlight in future episodes. Please let us know. And if that said, we will see you next month. Thank you. Keep writing.